Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivanadari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivanadari. Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamunti Ravanatari. Jamunti Ravanatari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivanadari. Jasodanandanam Brajajana Ranjana. Jamunti Ravanatari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Boom! Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bo! Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Puri Bhajakacharya Sita Deshisham, His Divine Grace, Abhay Charan Bhakti Vedanta Swami Mahārāja Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Kota Vaishya Vrinda Ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki, Prem Shri Gaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadada, Shiva Sari Goa Bhakta Vrinda Ki, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda, Giri Govardhan Ki, Vrindavan Dham Ki, Mathura Dham Ki, Dwarka Dham Ki, Navadip Dham Ki, Jagannath-puri Dham Ki, Jamuna Mai Ki, Ganga Mai Ki, Tulsi Maharani Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Sambheda Bhakti Vinda Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Sesirara Giridhari Ki, Shri Krishna Stand Kirtana Jaga Ki, Gopremanande. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to some devotees. All glories to Divine Lotus Sita C.C. Guru and Gauranga. Krishna Swadamo Bhagate Dhammaganadi Bisaha Kalanda Sadashamesha Parana Kodadodita. Could we have just a pinch more volume? Well, maybe it's loud enough. Can you hear me? All right, well, then let's leave it alone. Narayana namaskritya naram chaivam narotama devim sarasatim vyasam tato jayamudirayat. The Bhagavatam, as his brilliant the sun, is arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge, religion, etc. Persons who have lost their vision to the dense darkness of the age of Kali should get light out of this Purana. Before beginning our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, we should first offer our respects to the personality of Godhead, Narayan, to the Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, the goddess of living Mother Saraswati, the author Srila Vyasadeva, and my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Dravida Prabhu, are you going to chant the Sanskrit today for us? Yes. Thank you.
Text 27. Tadanim apiparshvavartinam atmajam ivanusho avivikshamano mriga eva abhiniveshita mana visrijya lokamimam sahamrigena kalevadam ritam anuna mrita janmanusmriti itaravan mriga shariram avapa.
So we're reading from the 5th canto, chapter 8, text 27, right? All right. So the translation is, at the time of death, the king saw that the deer was sitting by his side exactly like his own son, and was lamenting his death. Actually, the mind of the king was absorbed in the body of the deer, and consequently, like those bereft of Krishna consciousness, he left the world, the deer, and his material body, and acquired the body of a deer. However, there was one advantage. Although he lost his human body and received the body of a deer, he did not forget the incidents of his past life. And Prabhupada's purport. There was a difference between Bharata Mahārāja's acquiring a deer body and others acquiring different bodies according to their mental condition at the time of death. After death, others forget everything that happened in their past lives, but Bharata Mahārāja did not forget. According to Bhagavad Gita, yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tajati ante kalevaram tam tam evaiti kunteya sadatad bhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when one quits his body, that state he will obtain without fail. Bhagavad Gita 8:6. After quitting his body, a person gets another body according to his mental condition at the time of death. At death, a person always thinks of that subject matter in which he has been engrossed during his life. According to this law, because Bharata Mahārāja was always thinking of the deer and forgetting his worship of the Supreme Lord, he acquired the body of a deer. That's the law. However, due to his having been elevated to the topmost platform of devotional service, he did not forget the incidents of his past life. This special benediction saved him from further deterioration. Due to his past activities in devotional service, he became determined to finish his devotional service even in the body of a deer. There's no setback, even you're in the body of a deer. It is therefore said in this verse, Mritam, although he had died, Anu, afterwards, na mritya janama smritir itravat, he did not forget the incidents of his past life as others forget them. As stated in Brahma Samhita, karmani nirdati kintau cha bhaktim bhajam. Brahma Samhita 5:54. It is proved herein that due to the grace of the Supreme Lord, a devotee is never vanquished. Due to his willful neglect of devotional service, a devotee may be punished for a short time, but he again revives his devotional service and returns home back to Godhead. Om Gana Tamarandasya Gyana Gana Silakaya Jakshu Shun Militan Gina Tasmade Shi Gurave Namaha. So we hear there's always some movie star that believes in past life. There was I forget who it was, but they wrote a big book. It was on all the talk shows, and they're always convinced that they were Cleopatra or the King of France or somebody exalted, or at least at some crux of history. They don't remember. They don't say, oh, I was a squirrel, or I was a deer, or I was, what to speak of, a worm and stool. They don't go scatological on us. But the fact of the matter is, if we think about it, we have been, because this verse from Brahma Samhita talks about Indragopa. Indragopa is the tiniest little insect. And Lord Indra, who's at the apex of the Devas. Brahma, of course, is above them, and what to speak of Shiva. But as far as the demigods, he's the top, both Indra and Indragopa. So we have been riding on the wheel of samsara in all different bodies, whether we've been a king of France or Cleopatra or a deer, whatever it is, we are the original, been there and done that. We've had it. That should give some peace to the mind. Oh, Daniel, do you have any unwanted, unfulfilled desires? Be honest. Yeah, we all do. We had a devotee here. What was his name? Haridas, I think, would be interesting enough, was his name. And he could tell, because we used to have a receptionist. He'd sit in the front hall and greet guests with prasadam. But the thing is that he loved sports cars. He could tell the sound of any car by the engine. He couldn't get the color right. He wanted a red Ferrari, but he could tell the sound. So he had unfulfilled desires. Everyone's got unfulfilled desires. But if we think about it, I fulfilled that desire in a previous life. I've already done it. And what did it get for me? Just like here we have Bharata Mahārāja and the deer is sitting by his side. The deer is, it says here, it's even lamenting. I don't know if he realizes his gravy train's gone, he's going to have to fend for himself in the forest. So he's feeling a little But what is the use of the deer being there or your son being there? Prabhupada says when you're flying a plane, Prabhupada wrote to me this personally. He said, I wrote to Prabhupada complaining that there was no good association. We had a little temple in St. Louis. The temple president would come down at breakfast time in his pajamas. We didn't see him in the morning program. This is 1971 in St. Louis. And the only brahmachari used to go down to the college down the street and eat candy bars out of the vending machine and look at the young girls. True. And I'd come from Los Angeles with Vishnujan Swami and, just things were booming, And all of a sudden I was out there in the Midwest, and and I was 18 years old. So I wrote to Prabhupada. I said, huh? No, the president was a devotee. He's not around anymore, for obvious reasons. Anyway, but the point I was trying to make is that I wrote to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, can I go back to Los Angeles? I have no good association here. And Prabhupada wrote back to me, amongst other things, he said that you should become good association for others. But then Prabhupada said, because after all, one has to become one's own acharya. And then Prabhupada explained, he gave that famous example that you can give all good instructions to the pilot on the ground, right? But when you're in the sky, they can't say, go, you're pretty much on your own. You got to follow the instructions. You can't see what's, So at the time of death, where will we be? And who will be with us? And whether our faithful son is there or the crying relatives. There was a guy, on the other side of the coin, there was a guy here. What was his name? Anyway, he was Bank of San Diego. He was the head of the Bank of San Diego. Later turned out to be a crook. But he had a heart attack, and everybody thought he was going to die. And the wife was making the moves on the doctor. She'd already moved on. The children were saying, pull the plug, because they wanted the inheritance. And the guy could hear. Because they often, they'll tell you, doctors, many will tell you, that one of the last, probably the last sense to go is the sense of hearing. I mean, Krishna's kind up to the last minute. But one of the, but one of the last senses to go, the sense of hearing. So they thought the guy was going to die. He was apparently in a coma, but he could hear everything. And miraculously enough, he came out of the coma, divorced the wife, married his nurse, and disinherited all the children. He didn't quite get a profound message of it. So, but the point I'm trying to make is that where do we go? And even we're surrounded by crying relatives who love us dearly. We got our, all of our children, please, doc, can you give them 5 more years? Or what difference does it make? We have an example of how to leave this world. Because Prabhupada talks about the 2 cow patties. The example of the 2 cow patties? So one, cow patties, they dry them on the wall. And you put the wet ones there, and then when the dry ones, you use them for fuel. Prabhupada said best is cow dung, then is wood, then is gas, and the last is electric. Prabhupada did not like electric stoves. So the one cow patty is dry, and it's burning in the fire. And the other cow patty on the wall is laughing, ha, 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 look what's happening to you. You're being burnt in the fire. And what does the cow patty in the fire respond? He says, you're next. So it's actually amazing when you think about it. The bewilderment of Kali Yuga. That which they prepare for everything. As soon as I have a niece who just had a grandchild, and they are already starting a college fund. Huh? No, I'm sorry. No. My niece had a child. I'm sorry, my niece had a child. And it's already starting, so they plan for everything. People plan for insurance. People, they're already always saving. You know, if you know. So everyone's making a college plan, this plan, that plan. It's interesting. I get two sets of mail, contradictory. I am 69 years old, and I get advertisements for reserving a death plot. You know, a burial plot. Get a plot with a view. I mean, I guess for the... No, it's true. I guess it's for the relatives. I guess the relatives, when they come and mourn you, then you get a nice... Because you're not enjoying the view. But anyway, that was one of them. Get a plot with a view. You can get piped-in music. You can get all kinds. It's amazing what you can get. So that's one set of mail I get. Okay, plan for... You know, they say plan ahead. Don't make the grief on your relatives. Have it all lined up. Okay. And then I'm also getting advertisement for silver singles. It's not too late to find true love. I mean, when is it too late, you know? It looks like I'm pretty much past that stage, I would think, you know? So everybody's planning. But the one thing, they plan their house. They plan, you know, everything plan, you know? Business plan, plan A, plan B, plan C. But what is and it's completely uncertain. Of course, Govinda Das explains like a lotus, you know, lotus pad, and the water is tipping at any minute, you know. But they know it too, that anything could happen. You could get, you know, why do people stop and look at a car accident on the side of the road? It's ghastly rasa, of course, but they're thinking there, but in the back of their mind, there, but by the grace of God go I. Wow, Dad dodged that bullet. So, I mean, people get, my favorite example is the guy who got struck by the lime green bowling ball out in El Cajon. He was going to the coffee shop, you know, get some donuts and check out the news, what's on, you know, whatever it is. And yeah, he was struck in the chest and killed by a lime. I don't know why they mentioned lime green in the news story. But what had happened, because Brown Field is out there, it's a private airport, you know, for small planes. And some guy was on his way to a bowling competition in Las Vegas. And his engine in his Cessna, his little, you know, one-engine plane, it failed. And so he was trying to land on the freeway, and he was throwing everything out, his ballast, throwing everything heavy. He was tossing it out. And evidently, he threw out his bowling bag, and it hit the guy right in the chest, killed him. Anybody expect that? Anybody going to go out with a, you know, a baseball helmet on or something, you know, in chest gear? I mean, nobody expects that. People. Anyway, we're a little off the track, but what was the number? 760 people a year die getting out of bed. It's another, in America, in the USA alone, 247 die making toast. I think it gives new meaning to become toast, you know, to be toasted. I think they stick the fork in to get the toast out or something, you know, and zzz, they saw the light, you know. They became the light, actually. So my point is that, I mean, nobody expects that they're going to, so they plan for everything but the one thing that is certain. What is the one thing that is universal? Everybody gets it. Death. It's certain. But it's the one thing they don't really think about too much. Is that's the profound foolishness of the age of Kali. That thing which everyone is going to face, worry about it when I get there. If one's driving down a road, it's beautiful weather. Got a girlfriend with me. Got my red Ferrari. I'm driving down. There's a famous drive. People drive from Julian. When you come down, it's a beautiful view. It's, you know, Julian's up in the mountains, so you're coming down the Laguna Mountains. And your favorite tunes are on. You're in heaven, right? And if somebody says, hey, you know what? The bridge is out up front, and you don't have any brakes. Worry about it when I get there. Would anyone respond like that? But time of death, what happens? Where do I go? Is it dust to dust? Will you rest in peace? No, you don't get any peace. So the simple point we're trying to make is that this is the cornerstone of common sense. I was saying this morning that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes, common sense, that gift from God, so rarely used. Everybody's dying. What happens? Shouldn't I at least inquire about it? So that's one thing. Prabhupada tells a Guru Nanak story, and he credits Guru Nanak for it, that there was a rich man, and his friend invited him to a katha. There was some sadhu was coming, and they were speaking in the local temple. And so, all right, his friend said, come on, you'll like it. So this rich man said, every time I go, these sadhus, they ask me for something. He's going to ask me for, some dakshin. He's going to ask me for an umbrella and, some money, some land, some cows. I'm not going. His friend said, no, he's not that kind of sadhu. You'll like it. He says, and afterwards there's a feast, coconut kachoris and samosas and malpura. All right, I'll go. So he figures, I'll go, I'll sit behind a pillar. He won't see me. It'll all work out great. And after a while, there'll be a nice samosas and coconut kachoris. Soon as the sadhu finishes his katha, because Prabhupada says the face is the index of the mind, the sadhu said, I want to ask you something. Come on. And the guy thought, geez, I knew I shouldn't come. But what can he do? He's a little pious, so he came over, and the sadhu said, I need your help with something. He said, I knew it. Here it comes. So the sadhu said, I've got this needle, and I use this needle for sewing up my clothes, but I'm losing it all the time. Can you just keep this needle for me, and you give it to me in my next life? What was the response of the rich man? Can he do it? And he realized, wait a minute. I'm so puffed up, I've got my wealth and my land, but I can't even take a needle with me. What is the use? So he actually had a realization. So the point I'm trying to make is that here it is. We'll all come to this point, and whether we've got a deer next to us, or we've got our favorite son, or our crying relatives, or our scheming relatives ready to pull the plug, where do we go and what happens? And they don't even think about it. So, there's a clock. What I wanted to get to, that's just a little background, but Krishna's kindness, because this verse is actually, and this section, on one hand it is a cautionary tale. And I brought a picture. Don't think it can't happen to us. Sometimes we think just by osmosis I'll become Krishna conscious. I just stay on the conveyor belt. And just like we have a principle that anyone living in the ashram is supposed to chant japa in the temple room till it's 6:15, isn't it? Now Vijay's not here after Artik chanting japa. I'm not here. I'm here at 3 o'clock in the morning chanting japa in the temple room for at least an hour and a half. Anybody want to join me in Govardhan? Come on over. But the point is that chanting in the temple room with the devotees, going to Mangalarti, not just, let's see what's cooking in the kitchen and what's going on back here, and will I get the, you coming in. Devotees are coming in. It's like a freeway in and out. But if we understand, hey, this life is short, and I may not make it in this life, and even we're devotees. Therefore, here's what I want. I wanted to share this picture. This is a picture taken in 1970 on the steps of the LA Temple. These are all the devotees in the Los Angeles Temple in those days, and I'm here. It's a little arrow. I'm here. Now, of the and Srila Prabhupada's sitting here. And of these, there's 4 sannyasis. Out of the 4 sannyasis, One of them made it. Tamal Krishna Maharaj is in this picture. And of the devotees in this picture, which I'm going to pass around, of the devotees in this picture, there are probably, I counted, I think there's 5, counting me, that are still fully engaged in ISKCON. Now there's probably, I think there's about 30 devotees in here, maybe 35, and there's about 15 of them that are coming to the temple, you know, in different states of Krishna consciousness, but they come, you know, they come for Janmashtami. They're devotees. But actively, seriously practicing sadhana, out of this group, you've got 5. Prabhupada said, don't be surprised who leaves, be surprised who stays. So if you have we'll pass around after. Okay, thanks, Govardhan. If I have a jet, if I have a rocket ship, and it's still within the Earth's atmosphere, and I shut off the engines, what happens? It's still pulled by gravity, isn't it? Even Bharata Mahārāja, a moment's inattention. Have you ever looked how an arrow is shaped? How is an arrow shaped? Well, here's a big hint. Do you know why an arrow is shaped like this? Now, there's the aerodynamic feature of it. But there's another feature. Why? Picture the arrowhead. Why is the arrowhead shaped like that? Anyone know? Anyone want to hazard a guess? Other than Dravida Prabhu? You'll still get prasadam if you don't get the right answer. Huh? It goes in very easily, isn't it? No problem. But when you want to pull it out, it's got those 2 prongs. It pulls out a huge hunk of flesh. Attachment is like that. It's insidious. Little by little by little, we don't even notice it. But then when you try to break that attachment, whoa, I didn't realize I was that attached. So the point I'm trying to make is that somehow or other, this, just as Bharata Mahārāja fell down from the position of Bhav and became a deer, it can happen to us. I know devotees, they lived in the brahmacharya ashram or in the temple, and, you know, this and that happened, and, well, they, you know. And the next thing, you meet them 30 years later. They'll walk in, I say, I don't know what happened. Next thing I knew, I need to make a little money, so I left the temple and I got married. There are many, many nice householders, don't get me wrong. This temple rests on the dedication of householders. You know, sannyasis and brahmacharis, we're just playing in the hand of God, you know. But it's the householders who are out there making sure the bills are paid and the lights are turned on. So don't get me wrong. But the point is that the material nature is very powerful. Just like that rocket ship, as soon as it's not pushing forward, gravity pulls it back until the point of being completely fixed in pure devotional service to the platform of prema. The material nature has the ability, just like gravity, to pull us down. So we have to be serious. What did Prabhupada say in the purport? There was a great line in the purport. It said, willful neglect, that if one's not careful. So my simple point is that we are in a very, very fortunate position. What's the population of San Diego? 3 million? Isn't it? Greater San Diego? Something like that. It's probably more. And how many of us are here sitting in this room? Quick math? Under 20. Huh? How many are here? Yeah. More than that. Anyway, let's take 15. 15 and there's 3 million. What's that percentage? Anyone know? Whip out your phone and figure it out. But the point is that here we are. And again, we've got householders here who are working. We've got brahmacharis. We got, we got everybody in between. But the point is, they're serious. We're serious about it. And if we're not serious, you can fall down. So attachment to getting up early in the morning, chanting one's japa with the devotees, attending the morning and evening program. When I first moved in, we had no morning program. We got the number?
3 million?
3 million.
3 million of the population.
Okay.
So 0.000003.
That out of all the population of Greater San Diego, the odds of us becoming engaged in devotional service, coming to the temple, Krishna is God, is
0.000003.
how many zeros is that?
5 zeros.
So 50.503. Those are the chances. So I'm trying to think of the right example, but if you had a lottery ticket in your hand and all you had to do was turn it in, and you won, some of those lotteries, I don't know how much, millions of dollars, right? How carefully would you hold on to that ticket? Would you just, oh, geez, I think I left it in the pocket of my coat somewhere, No, man, you'd be on it. So here we are as devotees, and all it takes is to utilize our time wisely. Prabhupada told Jayadvaita Swami, he actually told us in Bhagavatam class in Los Angeles, in Brooklyn, Henry Street. You chant 16 rounds, minimum, follow the regular principles, engage in the Sankirtan mission, serve the Vaishnavas, and you will see Krishna face to face in this life. Everyone was shocked. In this life? Jayadvaita Swami later on in the darshan that afternoon said, Prabhupada, in this life? Prabhupada said, in this life, why not? So there's that. We should guard it like the most valuable lottery ticket. Somehow or other we got it. The other thing I wanted to talk about was Krishna's kindness. That here we see, I'll read this from the Brahma Samhita. I guess that's what we'll do. Oh, Prabhupada talks about because one could think that, geez, that doesn't seem very fair. Bharata Mahārāja was at the platform above, and you got a little attached. I mean, deers are pretty cute. You ever see a baby? They had a deer in New Vrindavan. It was very beautiful as a fawn. Like Sita, with the fawn that Marichi came in the fawn. So, but when they grow up, so this fawn everybody loved. But when the fawn got big, it was like, deer gone bad, it would come right up to people and push them out of the way and take their prasadam. It would knock over little kids, take their mango ice cream, the guests. Finally, they drove that deer, I think it was like, I don't know what, 15, 20 miles away and let it loose in the woods. A couple days later, it showed up. Couldn't get rid of it. Huh? Wanted that ice cream, So, but, it's not you think about it, it's not a very nice birth. So, but the point is, why would Krishna let that happen? And it's part of the bigger question. We see devotees struggling. If you actually look at it, you look at the Kunti Devi, you look at Draupadi, you look at the Pandavas. Who was it? Was it Chittaketu? Just was joking with, because he had a friendly relationship with Lord Shiva, and to be cursed, became Britasura. I mean, that, But you have to follow the full arc of the story. Prahlad Maharaj tortured by his father. It's horrible. 5-year-old boy, his own father, try to boil him up. But you have to look at the arc of the story. The whole arc is, Prabhupada calls it, the suffering of devotee is the curative, therapeutic hand of the benevolent Lord. It's a great sense. The therapeutic, curative hand of the benevolent Lord. So that's being described here as because he became a deer. What was the reaction? Krishna gave him his remembrance, that you remember who you were. Don't take it lightly. And even in the body of a deer, he became serious. So my point is that everything that's happening in this world to a devote, Prabhupada gives the example of Akbar. Akbar, Birbal, and you can go to Fatehpur Sikri, and you can see Birbal was his prime minister and counselor. And Birbal, was a Vaishnava, was a devotee. I'm looking at the time. And you can see where he stayed, and you can see he's got Das avatars all around, so many things. So he would counsel Akbar, who was nominally a Mughal and following Mohammedan tradition, although he was open-minded. Met Rupa Goswami, met Jiva Goswami. But he said to Birbal, who was a Vaishnava, he said, I have a question that your Krishna says he's equal to everyone. But then he says that he takes special care of the devotees. Devotees under the Daiva Prakriti, they're under Krishna's shelter. So that appears to be a contradiction. If Krishna is the father of all living entities and equal to all, why does he take special care of his devotees? And Akbar said, I'll explain it. You'll see. I'll explain. Some time went by. Akbar's walking in Red Fort, and if you go to the Red Fort, the one in Delhi, there's all kinds of beautiful gardens and then channels, waterways, with fountains and all kinds of stuff. It's very beautiful. Used to be. So from some distance, he saw his favorite grandson, and Akbar saw his favorite grandson fall into one of those channels or pools. And there's a small boy, he's going to drown. Akbar immediately jumped in the water to save him. And when he got there, he found out it was a doll. It was a doll, a daira, or whatever you call it, a mannequin of his grandson. So what is this? He can immediately understand, this is Birbal. What's your point? And Birbal said, you have so many servants. You could have told one of your servants, or said, go get my grandson. But you, although you're a noble king, and you're taking care of all of your citizens, out of deep, special affection, because your grandson is surrendered to you, you personally went through his care. So although Krishna is providing for everyone, Krishna loves everyone, he has a special spot in his heart for his devotees. And that special spot doesn't, Krishna is especially, he's kind to everyone, Karuna Sindhu, but he's especially Bhaktivatsal, kind to his devotees. So Bhakti Daniel, how do we square this? Krishna is especially kind to his devotees. We have Bharata Mahārāja, who was a great devotee, and Krishna let him become a deer? I don't understand. That was his desire, but, I raised 2 children. Children have so many foolish desires. They want to run out in the street and stop the cars or play baseball on the freeway. Just because the kid desires it, I let him do it. Practically speaking, a parent's job, especially when they're young, is to stop their desires. Whenever my kid said, hey, watch this. Oh, my God. Hey, I got a cape on. Let me see if I can fly. Kids do so many crazy things. So, good answer, but, Krishna's, the suffering of a devotee. When you go to a doctor, let me ask you this, let's make it real simple. When we go back to Godhead, Prabhupada described, it's like you just waking up from a dream, and there's Krishna and the cowherd boys coming over the hill. They're on their way to Govardhan. And Krishna says, come on. And you just fall in and off you go. Now, when you fall in and you're on your way to Govardhan, we say to Krishna, hey, Krishna, I'm really glad to be here. Thank you very much. But, 5 lifetimes back you made me a deer. Why did you do that? If that's what it takes, because Krishna knows what we need. We know what we want. Actually, we don't really know what we want, but the ultimate want. But we have so many things we desire. And Krishna's, Prabhupada gives the example, World War II, in Germany, everyone went to church. And they all prayed. The wives, let my husband come back. Mothers, let my son come back. Whatever it is. Sisters, let my brother, all that. They were all praying to God. And in Germany especially, everybody got creamed. Then they didn't come back. So what happened? I'm praying. I didn't get what I want. So what did they do? They all became atheists. So the point I'm making is that Krishna's kindness, what is Krishna? If you just connect the dots, Krishna's kind to everyone. He's especially kind to his devotees. But he let Bharata Mahārāja become a deer. But what did he also do? He gave him his memory so that Bharata Mahārāja become fixed and serious. So Krishna's kindness is that he's helping us go back to Godhead. And that is as fast as possible. And sometimes that means that Prabhupada said devotees suffer for 3 reasons. 1, token reaction from past activities. I meant to get hit by a bus and I stubbed my toe. So there's a little token reaction. The other reason is to set an example. We look at, you're out on Sankirtan, you're having a rough day. Think about Prabhupada passing out from sunstroke, trying to distribute Back to Godhead magazine. Or writing the entire Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada wrote Bhagavad Gita by hand. And he wrote it on the back, some of it, because there was a paper shortage in India, he used to get used letterhead from the Soviet embassy. Yeah. And can you imagine, there was a certain happiness I met. On the back of used paper from the Soviet embassy, he wrote his Bhagavad Gita. Got all the way to America, and what happened? It was stolen. Did Prabhupada think, well, I guess Krishna doesn't want me to write Bhagavad Gita. Maybe I'll give it, I'll pick something small this time. Prabhupada sat down, started all over again. So, but the point I'm trying to make is that, so 2 reasons we said, token reaction. The other, devotees suffer to set an example. We think about Prahlad Maharaj, and it inspires us, well, how to take shelter. We think of Kunti Devi, so many different examples. We think of Srila Prabhupada and how determined he was to deliver the conditioned souls. It's inspirational. And there's a third reason. So I've named 2. Anyone know what the third reason is? Huh? Okay, well, you can add a 4th because you're a Vaishnava. But Prabhupada, and Prabhupada's also a Vaishnava, obviously, but Prabhupada gives, in this particular list, he says, every now and then Krishna gives us a good kick. Don't stay here. It's a good kick in the pants because our tendency is to become lethargic. And Krishna gives us a good kick. Don't stay here. So when devotees suffer and struggle, if they look at it, we should not curse like, King Lear on the moor, why have you done this? That's not our business, raging against the wind. But when we suffer, we think, what is Krishna trying to teach me? How can I advance from this? What is the message here? And if one has the determination of Bart in the body of a deer, then how determined we should be, and understand that the difficulty is coming to us, and if I pray to Krishna, how can I learn from this? How can I advance from this? Very quickly, we will go back to Godhead. And Krishna is not forgetting. A parent, suppose let's just pick a kid. Okay, you got a daughter, and your daughter's playing with all of her little friends, and they're doing something nonsense. You'll be gentle in your chastisement of the neighborhood kids. They're not your children. You don't really have a right. You can't, all right, you can't eat and you're going to pun, I'm sending you to your room. You can't do that. You just send them home or whatever, You're lenient. But your own child, you can't do that. You're supposed to set an example. No dessert for you tonight or whatever it is, So you're heavier with your own children because you're responsible for them. So Krishna is responsible for his devotees, and he's made a promise. Krishna has promised to get us back home, back to Godhead. And therefore, sometimes he has to intervene. So there's a little bit of an insight to Bharata Mahārāja and why he became a deer. Okay, we can end there. But one last thing, just for fun. We see animals sometimes become great devotees, and you wonder who they are. We were at the Govardhan at the old Bharata Mahārāja's palace, the ISKCON temple there, and there was a pandal, and for 1 week, Lokanath Maharaj and other, they were giving the Bhagavad Katha, and every day, every morning, just in time for the Katha, a big white bull would come and sit at the edge of the big pandal tent and stay for the pravachan. When it was over, he got up and left. And he came every day for a week, and then we never saw him again. There was a dog named Hari Rama in New Vrindavan. I never saw any other dog do this. I've seen, anyway, he would come, the temple room, it was small, it was an old farmhouse. But he would come to the window and put his paws up at arti time, only at arti time. He'd put his paws up, and he would watch the devotees, and he would watch the arti. But this was the really far out part. When the lead, because we're call, response, the devotee, the lead singer is singing, and everyone responds. So when the lead singer would be singing the Hare Krishna mantra, he'd put his head down, and he would shake his head and listen very carefully, his ears perked up. And then when the devotees would all sing, he'd, ow, 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 ow. And then he'd stop. When it was this lead singer, and he'd put his head down and listen very carefully, There's no question. Hari Ram was. We had a squirrel in Ann Arbor, Michigan, who would come every evening. He was better than the brahmacharis. There was a pine tree by the window, and you could see he would come every evening and watch the arti. After a while, in the summertime, we'd leave the door open. He'd come in the front hall, like if you open this up, and he'd sit like in the front hall for Bhagavad Gita class, because we had class in the morning. He would come for Bhagavad Gita class. The devotees were feeding him. It got to the point that, you offer him a few nuts. What? Where's the halava? Where's the pakora? Where's the samosa? He used to take a ladu. Picture a ladu about this big. It's like the size of a basketball proportionally to him. And he would just he'd buzz through the thing. He got so fat that a cat was chasing him one time and he was trying to get up the tree and he couldn't, I told the brahmachari, you got to put him on a diet, we're going to lose him, We lost him one year because we had a girlfriend. He had so we didn't see him for one summer, and then I guess he pulled out of it, and then he started showing up again. So, he's definitely some kind of there are many, many examples of animals. So, but let's not go that route. Let's be serious now. It's a cautionary tale. Be careful. Take advantage of our good fortune. Hare Krishna. Thank you. All glories to Prabhupada.